There are very few games with the universal consensus of negativity that Superman holds, which is more commonly referred to as Superman 64, a Nintendo 64 exclusive, as no other console pitied it enough to house its shit show. A video game that is merely another checkbox to tick as I move through this list, is notoriety not affecting me in the slightest. Other infamously bad games I've played on this series have never matched up to their status in my opinion. The ET game was an easy pushover for me, and Bubsy 3D, while horrid, failed to match up with how appalling I thought it would be. With Superman, however, I have never been more wrong in my lifetime. Well, perhaps I was more wrong to start this worst game search series in the first place, but I digress. Superman is based off of the TV show called Superman the Animated Series, and basically is the only explanation needed for why this game turned out so bad, because video game media tie-ins turn out worse than unprotected sex with a back alleyway hooker. Though, I'm sure more of an in-depth piss take for this game would be appreciated, so let's begin. For no apparent reason, Lex Luthor, Superman's grand nemesis, decided to create a virtual version of the city of Metropolis to trap Superman's friends. Instead of questioning how laughably pathetic Luthor's plan is, Superman enters the virtual world and, honestly, that's the plot of the game done and dusted. The rest of the game is saving your friends, sure, but no plot advancements are made until the end. The first level starts with Luthor telling Superman to solve his maze, even though all he has you do is fly through rings. A maze? Lex Luthor is like my girlfriend's tits, double B's, bald and blind. Similarly to my girlfriend, Lex Luthor does not exist. Mind you, every second level has you flying through these rings for most of the time, meaning the game has more rings than Shaquille O'Neal and Saturn combined. I just want to dunk Lex's bald head after subjecting me to this glitchy virtual metropolis. These outside ring flying levels are called ride levels, while the inside levels, that I will talk about more later, are dubbed the maze levels. So, does Lex have difficulty understanding what maze even means? He must have difficulty understanding how to program a virtual world considering how broken this virtual metropolis is. Before each of the ring flying sections, Superman proclaims, "There is no time to waste." I mean, the time I'm spending to play this game is getting wasted. Did you ever think of that, Superman? In each of these ring sections, you've got around 3 rings you can miss going through before you fail that section. I say around 3 because there have been times where the game allows me to miss more. The rings are coloured to indicate something, with green telling you it's the next ring to fly through, and yellow showing you how many mistakes you can make. While you can fly through yellow rings, it counts as missing a ring. The grey rings represent a ring you cannot fly through, and will instantly fail the mission if you fly through them. The red ring is the final ring of the section, and represents that you should stop playing the game. The ring sections get way too much hate, because in my opinion they are the best part of the game. Best has quotations around it bigger than the list of glitches in this game, mind you, but any sections where you get to freely control Superman has the terribleness featured in the ring sections tenfold. Once you get a grasp of how to control yourself in the ring sections, you won't have that much trouble. The only trouble you will have with them is trying to stay awake during them due to how mind-numbingly repetitive and long they get. Sure, every so often they try to mix it up by having moving rings or multiple paths to take, but you'll be so tired of them by the end you want to play anything else, except maybe the other parts of this game. Also, for anyone that complained about the rings, just play the game on easy as that difficulty just skips the ring sections, having you fly around to the time sections. Between the ring sections, a timed event will occur, and the text appears and disappears so quickly you won't know what you've just been asked to do. I personally think this was made for chimpanzees with how good of a short-term memory this game expects you to have. It explains why whoever was playing the demo of this game was terrible. It was chimpanzees the whole time. Failing to complete this event will boot you back to the ring section, and only if you fail the timed event 3 times will the game pity you and start you off after the ring section. These events range from defeating enemies and putting out tornadoes, but after about the 3rd level no new variants of these events are present, making the game even more repetitive. The draw distance is atrocious, and the developers tried to sweep it under the rug by calling it Kryptonite Fog. The problem with calling it that is that there are indoor levels where Superman loses health by being near kryptonite. So, you're telling me Superman is fine with kryptonite as long as he's outside flying through rings? The frame rate dips faster than an African American after finding he's with Kid, and the graphics are so poor that, well, I'm not going to make another African American joke, but just look at them. The design of Superman is so low textured and poorly done, he looks like a chin with a man attached. In order for Superman to use his powers, like his heat vision, He needs to collect special icons, and they have limited uses before needing another icon to be collected. Just imagine if, in the next Superman film, Superman starts looking around the place he's about to help for power-up icons, and he goes, "Well, I know you guys wanted me to use my freeze breath on that burning building, but the best I can find is this X-ray vision power-up." I know that you could excuse this by saying it's in a virtual world, but you can justify any mistake in the game with that. Oh, the smaller buildings are just flat textures on the ground. Well, Lex didn't have the technology to make his virtual world with amazing graphics. Superman got caught in a wall he's 20 meters away from? Well, Lex didn't have enough bug testers to make sure this virtual world was perfect. The main enemies are just humans that shoot you, called Shadow Walkers, and while I'm not sure if they were included in the show, I'm pretty sure they were just called that to excuse why they were just textureless black blobs. Superman is the glitchiest game I've ever played. It's so glitchy I was surprised the main menu even worked, but unfortunately it wasn't broken enough for me to start the game. Although that would have been the ultimate metaphor for the game if it never loaded up. In terms of sound design, the soundtrack is generic and loops frequently, but just becomes white noise compared to playing the game. To add icing on the shit cake, the developers couldn't even get the Superman theme. You can make the screen smaller in the settings menu, making the game harder to see and play as it already is. Why, anyone that would play in that aspect would have a death wish. The maze levels are the sole reason this game is why I hate it so much. By no means is the rest of the game in hopes of reaching the concept of perfection. These sections push Superman to the worst game. While walking, Superman uses tank controls, and I would say these tank controls are just as lousy as the ones in Bubsy 3D. You can barely walk a straight line with how unacceptable they are. One may say to themselves that flying around would be the best bet, and you would be right, if you can manage to fly around. The maze levels are the poorest when it comes to glitches, and half the time I couldn't take off the fly. Another problem with flying indoors is that you're likely to get stuck due to how much closer to any walls you are. While I may call these sections the worst in the game, at least these levels involve saving Superman's friends and objectives get switched up. What can I say for the ride levels? They serve no purpose other than telling me that when Lex Luthor has Superman trapped in a virtual world, the worst thing he can think of doing to Superman is make him fly through rings. Unlike the ride levels, however, Superman has one life, and if he fails an objective just once, that level needs to be replayed from the start. Most objectives are poorly explained and hard to figure out, and exploration of these indoor areas is arduous due to the draw distance. The interiors look poorly lit, but I'm sure that's kryptonite fog that's making it hard to see. I can understand why these sections were dubbed maze levels, as the hardest thing to figure out, other than the objectives, is getting around these dark labyrinthian areas. The combat is the funniest thing to be witnessed as Superman flings his arms around like he's never been in a fight in his life, and I get more concerned that he'll knock himself out before he'll be able to hurt his target. The cruelest part about this game is that, by default, it's set to normal difficulty, but for you to be able to complete the final level, you need to have it on Superman difficulty, or the hard difficulty. So, either you need to be masochistic enough to beat this game on Superman difficulty, or replay all the levels you just went through to see what spectacular endings Superman has. Did this problem occur to me when I played through the game? Yes. Did I complete the game after finding this out? No. I won't lie, I looked up the ending of this game, and it's not as disappointing as the rest of the game. No really, you save your friends from the virtual world and Lex Luthor escapes while mocking you. It's not great, but compared to what the game has delivered to you before, it's like a pity slap at the end of a brutal beatdown. I think I would rather get someone to circumcise me with their teeth than for me to sit down and play this game again. Everything wrong with the video game can be found within this game. A poorly explained, nonsensical plot king hits you as you begin your journey through Superman's 9 rings of hell. In the first circle called Limbo, all of the ring sections reside. It's not heaven, but as far as hell goes, it's not too bad. Lust themes the second circle as the deformed graphics make you desire the beautiful polygons featured in other Nintendo 64 games. Gluttony is the subject of the third circle, as overindulgence of repetitive missions will make you swell with boredom. The fourth circle themed greed is when you begin to get insatiable longing for more draw distance. Anger proceeds, as the frustration from the maze levels will make you grip your controller in sweaty resentment and makes you scream in rage. This is followed up by heresies. The opinion to release this game goes against any belief of any religions, and the inclusion of tank controls is profoundly at odds with what is generally accepted in the gaming community. Violence makes up the seventh circle, as you throw the controller down on the floor and start smashing your screen. Continuing with fraud, as the use of Superman as a popular character deceives people into playing the game, and this deception resulting in the financial gain of the developers, selling 500,000 copies. The final circle sees treachery occur as the game betrays you by never letting you fight Lex, and ends on a cliffhanger. After going through the 9 rings of hell, Superman flings you back to the main menu for you to break down in tears after experiencing the worst game put to code. As you can probably tell from that analogy, Superman is the worst game I've played so far. I believe that it will never be dethroned, and I'm so confident that I will play through it 3 more times if I'm wrong. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, cause I sure as hell enjoyed nothing about it.